The very first brief was to create what Irene and Liz called a disorientation space.
Here we are standing in front, approximately between the facade of the building and the street. Where do you feel like the space that you're working with begins?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I really wanted to play a little bit of a peekaboo with the facade so that as you come up, you really see the form like it's a solid, and then you see that it's a really thin shell, and that it's really just a scoop. And the same thing with the window. I wanted to focus towards the trees and the walkway with the plants, and really make it also kind of oblique. So it's kind of oriented a little bit to the diagonal of the street.
This work is both two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Can you talk about that relationship and what you were doing?
Sure. Coming and seeing the building and also being around Santa Fe, what you realize is that adobe is not a purely two-dimensional material. It's got a lot of these ease corners and rounds and fillets and things like that. So we really just scaled it up. So it's like giant fillets or giant forms that come right out of this adobe surface. The graphic came after the idea of the form, and it just seemed like a good way to play the shapes of the oval entries off of the building. And I am a person that really likes a kind of super graphic 2D quality with the 3D.
In spite of the extreme three-dimensionality of a lot of your work.
No, it's true, but you know, in the Bloom House and the Korean church and a lot of stuff, I like to play flat against curve. Be in a totally curved world is a little bit, it's not as interesting as the contrast.
The three-dimensional forms are fiberglass, right?
Yeah, they're built with glass cloth. So it's a woven cloth, which lets it be even thinner than if it was like sprayed concrete.
Like you find in shipbuilding.
Yeah, these were not built by a shipbuilder, but it's exactly the same technique.
The mold was built up out of blocks of insulation. Can you talk about that a little?
There's really two sides to each surface. There's a finished side, which is facing the exterior, and then this side we didn't put really any labor into. This is just how it comes right off the mold.
Fasteners are here on this rough side, and you got the mark of the tool.
Exactly.
Let's move inside and go further into the progression of space. Seems as though they're both the forces that have somehow bent these shapes, and then the force of the shapes on the space.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how things develop from the street coming through this entry space and then on into the galleries?
When we started talking about where the elements would go, we thought it would be nice, instead of having like a vestibule, to really have the shows start here, which, you know, in terms of the artists, I think works really well. And in terms of these elements, we really wanted this to be like part of the show already, but also a little bit like the vestibule, play with that. So, you know, from here you